Now I'm going to go through here and trim up all this little blocking that's hanging off a little bit. Snip them off, cut them off, and just clean up areas where it's sticking out beyond where I wanted it. And after I do that, I'm going to go ahead and put my hardware on, and then I will be able to, well, I'll put some geodetic on the bottom side, crisscross it on the bottom, just so I have good rigid square wing, and I'm not gonna have to worry about being super careful not to bump it. Now for the AN4 bolts, which are 1/4 28s, I always set my torque value to the highest setting. That way, you know, you're overcoming the resistance from the lock nuts. And for the AN3 bolts, which are 1032s, that's 24 inch-pounds is the max for them, and I always set it to the max. That way you're overcoming the resistance from the locking nut. Well, it doesn't seem like there's much hardware for this simple plane, but it took an hour to get it all on there and torqued, and that's even having marked it all, so I didn't have any questions what went where. But when I was finished, I noticed this here was off the line just slightly. The back was right on it. So I went to the middle of the wing and was going to move it slightly, but as I lifted it, the thing sprung right to this position on its own. So it's already got some stiffness to it just in gluing the ribs on that wants to keep it square. But I must have bumped it while I was doing all this work. Now I'm going to go up on the main spar and mark where all the false ribs cross. That way, or attach. That way, whenever I'm attaching all this geodetic, I'm not going to interfere with where the main rib needs to go. And then on the back side, I usually don't mark that, because these here cross points kind of guide you. There's only certain places where it can cross through there, and it keeps it so there's a very narrow area where it'll attach right there. Okay, so the compression strut, detail A there, does not quite fit where they say it should fit on the main print, and I'm not sure that it does when you go to RP5. I'm going to get out RP5 and check it out. I can't remember, but pretty much you've got to just put it on there, and you got to lay it out and figure out where it goes. I believe it's a little bit behind this here rib, or maybe that's what it can't be. Maybe it has to be in front of it, or one or the other will rub on the rib. We'll see here in a minute. Okay, notice where this rib goes relative to this here strut buildup right there. Right near the top, right where it comes together. Well, that's where they say to put the compression strut on RP5. And then the pulleys go in here. I believe that's the way I did it, but of course the compression strut had to be moved back this way. So here you see the compression strut. It's pretty much right where the rib runs. So this here will have to set behind the rib, and this here will just have to reach a little bit. This arm will have to reach a little bit further, and I don't put wood screws in there. There's just I put bolts in there, and 3 bolts. So I'm thinking it fits right there. Now the one thing I noticed on that RP5 print, it has the top pulley way up here, which means that it's crossing from directly behind the strut up to up here. And I guess that's not too difficult to put keepers on it, bringing it on up in a free state. I'm going to have to go out and look at mine, see what I did last time. I don't remember. But I do remember that I kind of copied off of Gary Carter, because he had the same issue. He started building the pulleys out here and then had to relocate them off of the rib. Well, thank you for helping me make my decision. I think I'm going to start off. Of course, the pulleys are going to go in here and here. And I'm going to put the compression strut right behind the rib, fairly close to it. And probably start with the compression strut, then go to the geodetic. One thing that's important to note is on the pulleys, the frame that you build them into is the same for both pulleys. But this here L bracket that you mount it on is, see how short that is? That's for the bottom one, and that runs along the spar. And then the top one, it's a little bit longer, and it holds it out because these cables cross each other and you don't want them rubbing. Now when you measure for your compression strut, it is a compression strut, and you want the compression, you want the end grain of your crossbeam here butted up against both of the spars. In other words, you don't want the glue joint being your compression, the strength of your compression. The glue joint on the vertical beam, you want, that's just to hold it in place. So you want to get a very exact measurement, and we're going to say 20 and 13/16. But I'm going to go slightly extra, and I'm going to cut it at the angle that it's going to be going down right there, which I believe is, I can't remember, something like 10, 12 degrees. Okay, it's 20 and 13/16, or just over that, maybe a 16th. And of course that'll be beyond this here little knot. Always got to avoid these sharp grain changes or knots. And in spite of trying to keep it a little bit long, it actually still sat right down in there. It's a little bit below, but that's still fine. It's got a good joint right against the wood, full contact, and it's only down maybe less than 1/8 of an inch, so that's going to be fine. That one's even with the top of the spar. And now we'll cut the bottom one. Well, I got all my pieces cut, so now I'm going to make sure I scuff up the grain on the end. Go to all four corners. I'm not using all four, but yeah, just make sure whenever I make my decision which way I'm doing it, it's already prepped. That's the bottom piece. This is the upright up front. It's already been scuffed up. The short piece in the back for the rear spar, rear upright. I think yep, that's already been scuffed up, but make sure it's good. Alright, and then top one. And I'll go ahead and I'll scuff the end grain, even though the end grain is not a good joint anyways. I'll go ahead and scuff it. It does have some bonding strength. Okay, now go ahead and I guess that's good. I got that around far enough. I guess that's good enough. But anyways, we'll mix some glue and get the uprights put on first, and then we'll glue the compression rods on, and put the pieces that actually produce the compression strut. And again, always make sure your T88 is crystal clear. If it has any crystals in it or cloudiness, don't use it. And don't trust that you can heat it up. They say, oh, just warm it up until it's crystal clear. No, I tested it. I warmed it up until it was crystal clear, and I tested it 100% failure. And then I got this new batch, exact same test, 100% not failing. Oh, by the way, I reviewed my last wing, which I didn't realize how much I already had on YouTube for building wings from my last wing build. But the pulley, actually, I put the pulley in the center of the carry-through, or not the carry-through, the center of the strut build up there, because the cable comes straight up behind the strut. Why that drawing would have the pulley above the strut so far doesn't make sense to me, but putting it there, it comes my last wing comes just behind the wing right here, both of them, and this here one's built up a little bit higher, so it's away from it. So the actual compression strut is going to go just aft of that. It's going to go right here, but not interfere with the false rib. The false rib comes across right there and right there. So we'll go just shy of that. And I'm going to put it in fast forward probably. I may have made that a little tight. Probably could have used another 1/2 inch, but no, should be plenty good. But everything's glued up in a free state, and yet a little bit of pressure pushing against each spar, giving it its compression effect. So it's pretty secure. And of course, it's time now to start putting the geodetic on. But of course, first I'm going to make sure all of my squares are on that black line, and that the root is still square. With all my leaning over the wing and that, I don't want to have bumped it and got anything misaligned. I apologize if any of you are watching this and waiting to see what I do next, or you know, just anticipating. My health isn't as good as it was, and but I'm still working 10 hours a day, so that's good. And but I just haven't had the energy to be as diligent on this. Plus, there's plowing and planting, plowing, disking, planting, and whatnot going on. So it's kind of taken its toll on me. Hopefully, in August, when I go to Cleveland Clinic, they can figure out what the heck is wrong with me, and I can live a little more normal life. That looks slightly over that line. And this is just coming to the line. So I'll do it like I did last time and just go to the middle of the wing and go to the middle of the wing and just give it a little lift and see if it straightens itself out like it did yesterday. Oh, I think it might have. Felt like it pulled itself in just a little bit. Not all the way though. The amount that it needs to move is probably not even necessary. But wouldn't even be, not much more than 30-second, but my daddy always said, start with a good foundation. Everything comes square after, more square as you go. I'm going to go a little bit further. I think that's almost exactly where the rear spar is, right there. I think I'm at 128 hours. I'll double check. I'll start some geodetic, and tomorrow I took the day off tomorrow, actually. Get a 4-day weekend with Memorial Day, so I'll I'll figure out exactly how many hours, which is a little difficult because when you're videotaping everything, it's hard to subtract out all this video time.